Welcome to the April 22nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen in your background. The board recognizes the attendance of staff members Jen, Kevin, and our recording secretary, Susan. We also recognize the attendance of all the commissioners, Betsy, Courtney, Jamie, Kevin, Mark, Maury, Peter, Russ, and Steve. Remind you guys that I'll call on you each individually and we have to do roll call voting. So let's try to refrain from speaking over each other. To our public participants, there will be an opportunity for public comment on each hearing at the appropriate time. I will call for said comments. When you are selected, you can put your comments in through the chat function and they will be read into the record. That's all the legalese I have for the moment. So first up, we have minutes of April 15th. Anybody have anything?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
All right.
I'll second that.
Pat and second.
Thank you. All right, we'll take the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Bernie, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve? Mr. Patton? Again, I know it's redundant. Thank you. I know it's redundant that if you made the motion or the second, that I'm still going to ask you to vote, just to make sure the record's clear. First up, request for a continuance under a notice of intent. The first one is Michael C. and Ann L. Feenan, 101 Lake Lehman Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct additions and add a patio to an existing dwelling. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 29th.
So moved. Carlo Hawks.
Bird, second.
Okay. This is like the fourth continuance.
I know, Mr. Chairman, there was just the applicant, the representative wasn't aware that the plan hadn't been submitted and they wanted to make sure the board had the week in advance to review it. So.
Okay, can you remind
Ready
Mr. Bunker
next week.
date? Okay, so
What's
we have
the
a
date of
motion
the
and a second to continue until 4/29. Call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Bernie, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter? Peter Walsh?
Walsh, aye.
Thank you. Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay. Next one is for Scott Tynell, 163 Bay Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct shellfish aquaculture within Rand's Canal and Megansett Harbor. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until May 20th.
So moved. Carlo Hawks. Gladfelter,
Bird,
second.
second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue to 5/20. I'll take the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Bernie, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Thank you. It's continued to 5:20. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up is Clancy Construction, Inc., 32 Owl's Nest Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove 6 trees within the buffer zone to Jenkins Pond.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 29th.
So moved, Harlow Hawks. Second, Gladfelter.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 4:29. We'll take a vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Rooney, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye. I thought I heard 5:20, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
That was for a previous
The
one.
previous,
Okay, thank you.
That was 163 Bay Road.
thank you for keeping me in line, though. Next up is Thomas McCarthy, 122 Allen Avenue, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to add an addition over an existing garage and to connect the garage to the existing house within the flood zone. Jen and/or Kevin,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Harlow Hawks, second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Rooney, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Next up is Eugene Clerkin, 67 Cliffwood Avenue, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove and prune dead or diseased trees within the buffer zone to a wetland.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Harlow Hawks, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Rooney, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Thank you. Next up is Terrence and Mary Hunt, 16 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to construct an addition, enclosed porch, and install a new Title V sewage disposal system within the flood zone. Kevin,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Harlow Hawks, second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Rooney, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Excellent. Okay, next up are requests for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up is the Christine M. Moynihan Trust, 335 Shore Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and to construct and maintain a new single-family dwelling with attached deck and stairs, rent station, dry wells, new driveway, and all associated grading, utilities, and landscaping. Jen, who's up on this?
Yes, that's Raul. I just promoted Raul up to a panelist. So Raul, if you could unmute your mic. And let me know if you want me to share the plan, because I do have it up if you need me to. Raul?
There he is.
Raul, we can't hear you. Raul? Mr. Chairman, can you hear Raul?
I don't hear anything.
Okay.
No, I don't hear him.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I heard you, Matt.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing good.
Hi, Raul.
So yeah, this project is located at the corner of Shore Street and Surf Drive. It's an existing single-family residence at the corner. There are several resources near and on the property. The current owner and the applicant, which is the Christine M. Moynihan Trust, is planning to raise the existing dwelling and in place construct a new structure. So this is the site plan that was submitted with one revision that was submitted today by email only, but this one in the screen is the one that was physically submitted to the town. The submitted one today is to show the area that's enclosed within the levels of the flood zone. This is in a velocity zone. Velocity zone here is elevation 15. So the entire house is going to be constructed on piles. The first floor is elevated to elevation 18 and a half. The resources on and within 100 feet of the property are coastal beach across the street, a coastal dune right at the edge, south edge of our property, coastal bank across the street, shellfish across the street, to the ocean, and the entire property is within land subject to the house is being reconstructed in a different shape, but in overall there is no net increase on development within the A zone or the buffer B zone. So overall there is no net increase in development and no proposed mitigation. The house is being shifted further away from the existing dunes by approximately 6 feet. The main benefit of this project is that the existing house is located, constructed on the ground within the range of the flood zone, and the proposed house will be elevated to flood zone requirements. We're proposing to collect roof runoff with dry wells. Currently, the existing house does not have dry wells. We're proposing a limit of work along the south side of the property, along the edge of the existing lawn, and along the southeast corner of the property, which also follows the existing edge of lawn. There's no proposed removal of natural vegetation since the site has been completely cleared in the past. The site is serviced by town sewer and town water, so there's no installation of new septic system. There is, however, an existing septic tank. The top of the septic tank is on the surface of the property. That tank will be removed in accordance with Title V requirements, and the void of the excavation will be backfilled, and it will be part of the lawn area. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Raul. Jen and/or Kevin?
Thank you, Raul, and I apologize for not moving one of your devices up. That was my fault. I forgot. So I apologize for that. No, I mean, Raul, the site plan's a little bit different than what you guys have because they did revise it based on the staff's comments that we wanted the site plan to match the architecturals to show that just that small area shown on the architecturals is what's actually being enclosed with the breakaway panels, and the rest of the structure is being built on the open pilings, which we've been pretty consistent with for quite a while now, trying to minimize that enclosed space in the velocity zone. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that was really our only comments. So those were addressed.
Okay, Kevin?
Yes, Raul, thank you for addressing our comments. I agree with Jen. That was the main thing that we discussed during our weekly meeting, so thank you.
Okay. Raul, could you stop sharing, please? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to open it up to commissioner comments. Betsy?
I have no comments, thanks.
Thank you. Courtney?
No comments.
Kevin?
No comments after receiving the architecturals.
Mark?
No comments.
Maury?
I just want to, because of the consistency, I'm glad that you kept the enclosed area under 200 square feet in the V zone, which we'll make a finding on. And the cupola might exceed the 35 feet, but that's not our problem.
Peter?
No comments.
Okay. Russ?
No comments.
Steve?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay, Raul, I have a couple questions for clarification. Where's the rinse station going? For
The
one,
rinse station will be in the garage level.
is it on the plan?
No.
Is it with, okay,
No, the plan doesn't call it out. It's just below the footprint of the house.
is it gonna be enclosed?
It'll be part of that fencing, typical fencing for rinse station.
Okay. And then how about generator and AC compressors?
They will be on the upper floor level. It has to be within the footprint of the house, and it has to be elevated above the floodplain.
Right, okay. Again, just want to clarify. Okay.
Quick question,
Um,
Jamie, if you're, are you done, Jamie? I'm sorry, it's Jen.
Yep. No, it's fine.
I want to build on your question about the AC compressors. The architecturals, Raul, that were sent to us cite Longfellow is the builder, correct?
That's correct.
Couple of houses down. I believe Jamie asked this exact same question. And we were told it would be incorporated to the footprint, and lo and behold, when compliance time came, they were built on platforms extending out from the house. So if you could double check that, that would be appreciated, because I don't want to get into the situation where the staff has to not issue compliance as a result of these extended platforms. So if you could check on that and just verify that for us, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I will do.
Thank you.
So I'll make-
Jen, have any chat comments?
No, it doesn't, but, no, there's no chat comments at this time.
Okay. All right, what are you guys thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we have no public comments. So I'll call for the vote. Close the hearing and take it under advisement. Betsy?
Before I vote, can I just suggest to Jen that she put in the findings and then the special conditions, what she just mentioned about the air conditioners?
Yep, could talk about that when we deliberate, but I can absolutely do that.
Okay. Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Gurney, I expect the air conditioner will extend beyond the envelope of the current plans that we have here. I don't know, is that an issue?
We were just
Well,
discussing that. Go ahead, Jen.
It would be our issue if they extended over beyond the footprint because the mitigation calculations may change. So mitigation may be required if there are additional, because we take a bird's eye view of something. So if that coverage, that additional footprint extends out, then it's going to have to be accounted for and mitigated for if it trips the mitigation, trips that threshold. I just mentioned it because it seemed it's the same builder as, like I said, a few houses down, and this exact kind of issue happened. The platforms were put on after the approved plan was voted on, or the plan of record was voted on.
So if they determine they actually want air conditioners and have the expanders outside of the envelope that we see here, they're going to have to come in for a change. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
I'm sure it can be, I mean, depending on if it does result in required mitigation, then they would have to come back for an amendment. I would have to see what they're proposing before I make any additional comments.
Okay, thank you. I vote aye on closing.
Thank you. Maury?
Yeah, I have the same concerns. I looked at the architecturals and there's really nowhere that you can put the AC or anything else. So I just hope that they come in for an amendment instead of an after the fact, illegal episode. So I vote aye. Just we'll do that in the finding.
Just to say it, Jen, if that is, if they're cantilevered, it wouldn't count as ground coverage, correct?
It does, because you take a bird's eye view of something. So you look at the footprint, you always have. So
Mr. Chair.
that's how you've always looked at it.
Okay.
This is something that we keep asking these questions and they don't get on the plans. I think they should continue it, submit a new plan showing it, then we'll close the hearing.
No, the engineer has offered that they're gonna be within the
Tired of this stuff.
of the floor.
They have a plan. They have a plan. We've seen it. He's testified. If it changes, he'll come back.
I agree. We see the plan here, and they forgot to add a airplane hangar too, but it may not have them. So I think it's appropriate to approve this plan as shown.
Well, that's what they're asking us to do, so makes it easier. Peter?
Aye. Walsh.
Thank you. Russ?
I'd love to make a comment about this builder, but I'm not. Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, it's unanimous. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you.
Didn't I, Jen?
You did. I would just request if there is any public comment, the chat function, and then we'll give it a second. I might have
Okay.
misinterpreted. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to take this opportunity just to remind the viewing public that if you want to comment on something, use the chat function.
Thank you.
And then at each hearing, we will check that, make sure that if there are any comments, they're heard. Okay.
Just for people that
Next.
come in late to the meeting, Jamie, that don't hear the beginning.
Right, okay. Next up is Michael and Carla Follick, 12 Uncatina Road, North, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct an addition, a new landing and stairs, new living space over an existing covered deck, and to install mitigation plantings.
Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Mike Borselli up to a panelist, and I'm moving Raul. Oh, somebody already beat me to it. Nope, Raul's Kindle. Change to it. Did I move Mike up? Oh, there is Mike.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can, Mike.
Thank you. I'm looking for the share function. I don't know why I have trouble finding that. There it is. All right, hopefully I'm sharing my screen.
You are. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Michael and Carla Follick. The property is at 12 Uncatina North. It's probably very familiar to you because a couple of weeks ago you reviewed and approved an application to do repairs to the dock and stone jetty. This application tonight is for separate activities associated with a small addition to the existing house. To refresh your memory on wetland resources, we're on the Buzzards Bay water body, which would be land under the ocean, land subject to tidal action. There is a coastal beach. There's a sloping landform that is a coastal bank. The top of coastal bank is shown with this orange line. It is the most seaward wetland resource. The no disturbance zone A is 50 feet. The outer buffer zone B is 50 feet. The project is a small addition to the existing single-family dwelling. It measures 5 by 14. It's actually 2 stories. It'll provide for a little bit of expanded living space within the house. There's also a proposal to gain access from the deck by another small landing and stairs because the existing landing and stairs will be compromised by the addition. So this is a redevelopment project. The proposed improvements are not closer to the wetland resources than the existing primary structure. There's an increase in impervious surface. On the notes, it's outlined within no disturbance zone A of 27 feet. It's shown in blue on the plan. There's an increase in the outer buffer zone B of 55, and that's shown in a peach color. The net result, when you apply the ratios, is a requirement for 191 square feet. We have rounded that to 200 square feet of mitigation planting, and we've shown the mitigation planting on the plan in green. There is an existing cryptomeria tree located right adjacent to the corner of the house. A little bit of poor planning at one point in time, I would say, on that tree planting because it's enormous, and with or without the addition, it would probably be a good idea to remove it. As tree mitigation, we're proposing 2 eastern red cedars to be installed in this location. It creates, it enhances the existing cedar grove that already exists in this location. We reviewed the staff report. There was only one comment in the staff report, which I understand. and I've spoken to Jen about. And that comment relates to the configuration of the mitigation planting. While it is in the no disturbance zone A, it is not grouped in a way that it is providing all of the buffer plantings in adjacent to the coastal bank. For obvious reasons, the owner was trying to preserve his view in this area. But that being said, I spoke to him and he's willing to reconfigure the 200 square feet of mitigation. We contemplated changing it to be wider and grouped in this location instead of running along the property line. And he would actually prefer, if possible, to break it into two 100 square foot clusters and create one here and then one on the other side of the property, for the obvious reasons of preserving the view. We're hoping that you'll allow us to work with staff if that's your only issue. And we can submit a revised plan and avoid a continuance. If you need a continuance, then I guess we'll have to request one. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Kevin and or Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
I can do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the only comments the staff has was to be consistent with the buffer regulations and have the plants as close to the resource areas as possible. The board can decide whether they want that in one grouping or two. And we can, you know, specify that out really specifically in the special conditions if you want, or if you want to see a revised plan. I'm sure Mike could turn that around fairly quickly and you could continue it till next week. The only other hearing after that is May 13th, and I don't think it should, you know, be extended for that time for a small revision such as this, but it's up to the board.
But just to say it, if they're willing, I mean, he's expressing that they're willing to work with you guys on that, so that shouldn't necessitate a continuance, should it?
My question to the board is, do you want to see the whole 200 square feet grouped together, or would you allow the applicant to break it up? When I was talking with Mike earlier this afternoon, or late this afternoon, I said that recently we have been asking applicants to, or having revisions to plans where mitigation plantings are broken up into these little groupings. So that is what the board's going to have to decide. Do you want to see them together, or do you want to see it in the two groups?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll find out soon enough. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
No further comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to open it up to commissioner comments. Betsy?
Okay, I have no comment, and I don't really care whether it's 100 square feet or 200 square feet or 2 times 100 square feet.
Okay. Courtney?
No, I'm okay with it. No questions.
Thank you. Kevin?
Same comment as Betsy.
Thank you. Mark?
Turn on your volume, Mark.
Mark, we can't hear you.
You're still muted.
Mark, you gotta unmute yourself.
Mark, can you hear me? You're still muted. You're still muted. Mark, I'm going to come back to you. Figure out how to unmute. Maury?
My only concern with the, I'm not in either way about the separating it at 100 and 100. The only problem is the cedar trees are a lot of shade. So, you know, if they put the 100 square feet over in the cedar grove, there might be a problem with them, the sustainability. But other than that, I really have no problem. And the only thing is I would like Mike Porcelli to please put land containing shellfish on his plan.
Understood.
Thank you. Peter,
I agree with Betsy. No problem with the separation.
thank you. Russ,
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the flow on this. I got no problem with it either way.
thank you. Steve,
I agree. Either way, doesn't matter. Closer to the resource is best.
okay. All right, Mark, I'm coming back at, there you go.
Yes, I somehow lost the whole screen. I vote aye. No comments.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to remind the public that now's the time to enter any comments into the chat function. What's the board thinking? We entertain a motion?
I'll make the
motion to
motion
close the
to
hearing
close
and
the
take it
hearing
under
on
advisement.
Robbins.
Okay, I'm going to take that as Russ for a motion and Betsy as a second. Hey, do we have any public chat comments?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. With the note that, Mike, you will be working with staff on that reconfiguration, and I don't believe it's necessary to have a continuance for that.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, so we're gonna take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We're getting-
Mike.
We're getting pretty good at this. I must say, believe it or not, I am kind of missing being in the same room with all you people. So stay safe and have a good
Take care,
night.
Mike.
Bye-bye.
Night, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Night.
All right. Next up are, bear with me, continued hearings under a notice of intent. First one is Scott Tynell. That has been continued. Next one up is Timothy Leadham, trustee, RNG Realty Trust, 1209 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, all existing buildings and appurtenances, including bulkheads, piers, and boat ramps, and to construct a new commercial building together with a complete redevelopment of new piers, floats, bulkheads, piles, fuel dock, travel lift, parking lot, and stormwater management system. This is a continuance. Betsy, could we have the quorum for that, this please?
Yes, Jamie. It's Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Russ, Steve.
Okay, I have Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Russ, and Steve.
That's correct.
Thank you. I believe this is Matt Costa. Jen, do you want to start?
Yep, I promoted Matt. Just to say, Mr. Chairman, that I believe we continued this hearing for 2 items. One was so Matt could reach out to the Division of Marine Fisheries to see if the state agency would modify or relax the time of year restriction. I don't believe that did happen, or we haven't received a letter to that effect. And 2, the staff really thought it was important that we have some sort of salt marsh plan in place, or methodology in place. We did receive something from LEC. So I think Matt might want to talk about that. One of the comments in LEC's letter is that, and let me pull it up real quick. Just had it and I lost it again. can't I find it? Oh, it's right here. That the, what's it? Somewhere in the letter, LEC says that person should be, experienced in salt marsh restoration. So I would ask that the board, when you deliberate, put a special condition in that, the staff or department has to approve the contractor hired to do the salt marsh restoration work. And I think that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Did I miss anything? I think that were the two big items, correct?
Well, we just need to talk about the time of year restriction, because that's, you said you haven't heard anything from the state.
No.
Okay. All right. So, Matt, are you on board?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. If you want to, if you have anything to share, you can, now's the time. Welcome.
No, thanks for the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering. Yeah, Jen said it all. We submitted the additional information. LEC is going to be the one that's overseeing that restoration portion of things. We did reach out to DMF to talk about the time of year restriction. They didn't agree to change it at all. All we ask is that in your conditions, your special conditions with regard to the time of year restriction, if you could just be specific for it to be the work within the water, because we actually have some bulkhead work that's going to be in upland area, that's upland today, and we could do that work in the upland before moving into the water. So I just didn't want to tangle up the two. So that's my only comment.
Okay. Jen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, basically DMF says, in order to protect the winter spawning and juvenile development, recommends time of year restriction, any silt producing activities. So basically we could write it as any silt producing activities, Matt. So that's basically any of your in-water work. But,
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's fine. The staff's comfortable with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
No further comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'm gonna find that thing.
All right, I'm going to open this up to comments. Again, it's based on the quorum. Betsy?
Yeah, so Matt, I still have a little concern with, that's a lot of bulkhead that's going to be replaced. And could you just briefly go over what your methodology is that's going to keep whatever's behind that bulkhead stabilized?
Sure. They would first, you're talking about the existing bulkhead right now?
Well, yeah, you have a bulkhead and you're going to put a new bulkhead in, and what's in there now is not going to be there anymore.
Right. So for the areas where the new bulkhead's in front, they'll drive the sheet piling in front and then deconstruct the bulkhead behind it. For areas where there's a new bulkhead behind the existing, they'll actually excavate area behind the existing, install the new, and then once the new is in place, then remove the existing. We actually did revise the plan because I submitted a revised plan to DMF to show a second silt curtain location close up against the bulkhead. So that plan has been submitted to you, and if you approve it, that would stay. So we would actually have a second silt curtain, or we would most likely take the same silt curtain, move it up against the bulkhead for that when that work's taking place.
Okay, thanks. That's one of my biggest concerns from this project, that and if any stormwater runs off, because even if it's not a time of year restriction, if there's a lot of fines that are going in to the river at that point, it could be changing the the substrate and affecting the shellfish. But that's fine, and I'm glad you're putting an extra silt curtain in. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow up on that real quick? Matt, that was the plan you submitted with the salt marsh protocol?
Yes,
Did you submit a full-size plan of that one?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll double check. Thank you.
Pretty sure I saw it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Courtney?
No, he's addressed the questions. I'm happy.
Thank you. Kevin? O'Brien?
Oh, no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Russ?
No questions. I'll set with this one.
Okay, and Steve?
No questions. I think this will be a great improvement for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, what's your pleasure?
I move that we close this hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second.
I'll second that, Robbins.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Do we have any public chat comments?
Nope. No, not Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you comfortable with that?
Yep.
I gave him enough time. I should have announced it first. Okay, with no public chat comments, and we have a motion and a second, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
So I just have one more comment that I agree with, I think Russ made it, or Steve made it, but this is gonna be a nice corner with
Yeah,
everything that's been done down there.
Yeah.
So, Gladfelter, aye.
Thank you. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve?
Matt and I.
Thank you. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Costa.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Matt.
Night, Matt.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Next up, again, a continued hearing, James J. Mangravetti Jr., 101 Madeline Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to demolish and remove an existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling with decks, Title V sewage disposal system, install utilities and mitigation plantings and all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping, and to replace the existing electric and water services to an existing pier. Betsy, could I have the
Mr.
quorum?
Chairman, oh, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Tom Bunker up as well as the owner, Jim Mangravetti, to a panelist in case they'd like to address the board.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Tom,
Jamie.
before you start, I'm looking for the quorum.
Jamie, it's all of us.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bunker, you're up.
Been shared
You are screen sharing.
Yep.
and my voice, obviously, because you responded to it. All right. Thank you for the record. My name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, broadcasting live from Catherine Lee Bates Road. Had to throw that in, I guess. We were here a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Commission had a number of questions and comments about the plan we had drawn. This, what I have on the screen now, is what was filed 1 week ago, in which we moved some of the mitigation planting. Let's say we took we had a row of cedar trees along the north lot line here, and we moved them out into the sun and the edge of the lawn. Doubled the amount of the dry wells. We added 2 more dry wells, and they are all 4 connected with a pipe, all at the equal elevation, so they'll equalize as far as the water running into them. they have to be in the backyard because they have to be at least 25 feet from the septic system, which is up here in the front yard. And of course, water runs better when it's going downhill to the backyard. So we added, we changed the mitigation around and put the mitigation in this location between the garden. We moved the garden away from the bank, and all of the stepping stones that were around the garden, we removed the trellis that was back here and would have been in the way of cedar trees. We moved that out. The garden was moved away to make room for mitigation planting, which was here. And in addition, we had a couple areas up here in the north corner where there are a few small honeysuckle bushes. So we're going to pull them out and put in 4 shrubs. In addition, that's not part of the mitigation calculation, but it's in addition to get the honeysuckle out of there, and then we're joined with this other mitigation all into one. And likewise at the bottom corner where we had mitigation down here, and there was a little bit of some small honeysuckles also. So we pulled these honeysuckles out and put in a few more native shrubs in this location. Since that time, we've had a number of chats with staff and the staff report on this. And so this is the plan of record that we filed a week ago. But we did work up this plan. Now I would say we changed, and I did just email it just a couple hours ago, so it's new. So at the request, we had put their mitigation all the way across near the edge of the lawn, and pretty much the full width, other than where the walk goes down to the pier. So we spread the mitigation out here, actually moved the garden a little further away than we had it before. We still show mitigation up here, and because this corner here is where we had the mitigation is further from the wetland, it's not close, even though it's in zone A, where we had mitigation, we took that out, and all of the mitigation that was here is incorporated into this strip of mitigation right here, going pretty much fully along the top of the coastal bank. And this brown line through here from one end to the other of mitigation is a single rail, a low fence to protect that. So here I still have the dry wells, the cedar trees through here, some of the other mitigation, the other voluntary shrub planting here, and left these in here. And I also note, as a reminder, I have kind of lightly hatched in that what has always been the proposal, there was quite a bit of pavement running right down here, and so there is other benefits to this, not just the mitigation that you're getting out of this, where all of this pavement down fairly close to the wetland is being removed. So a lot of runoff down to this area was already being reduced or removed from the site, and so we have that and the mitigation planting here, and that's where we got earlier this evening on this plan. So I'd like it. We haven't submitted paper copies yet, but I'd like it if you could address comments to this plan, and we'll see what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. If you would stop sharing.
Yes.
Thank you. Jen and or Kevin, do you want to start?
I'll start, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Tom, for addressing the staff's comments from the staff report yesterday. That was helpful. I do like your new plan. And yes, the pavement is being removed, and that is a benefit. I don't particularly agree with the phrasing that what we're getting out of it, because the applicant is proposing to build a new home, and these are requirements to do that. So, but I do like the newer plan. I do have one question, Tom. How wide is that strip along the bank towards the pier area?
That's basically 3 feet.
So it's just one row of plants.
Yes.
The staff wanted the plantings originally to be in an area that just had the grass down to the coastal bank, I said. So I think this would be helpful. And that is all. And Tom, can you go over, where are you, Tom? Oh, there you are. You go over the honeysuckle again. I was looking for something. Are you?
It was just in these two areas. There was just a little bit of some fairly small honeysuckle shrubs down here, basically at the two lot lines, and we can't call it mitigation planting because there's already vegetation there. So just pulling some of those honeysuckle shrubs out and putting some native shrubs in.
Okay.
That's
okay. Thank you. Tom, just for the record, what's the date of that plan that you are? That's today's date.
That's today's date on this plan.
So
yes.
a revision of April 22nd.
Or 22. Yes.
Okay. For the record. Okay. Thank you.
We can accept that for as the official plan.
If the
correct?
board, if the board okays the plan, I don't have any problem accepting it. That's why I wanted to have Tom say the revision date on it.
I mean, he addressed your concerns, so.
Yep.
Kevin, do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry if I missed this. What variety of species were you planning on putting in?
I had here just some suggestion. Frankly, I just went over this with the applicants earlier today. Pipebush blueberry, amelanchier, some viburnums, but actually I talked with them today, in this location, and could also be probably some beach plum or bayberry might go well in there. And I think we could we hadn't quite decided, but I had this suggested mix, but it might be changed somewhat.
Okay.
Whatever
Appropriate
be
to me.
approved by you.
I think the beach plum would be nice in that 3-foot area, Tom. That'll be a nice flowering plant. But I can work with you on where to put the different species.
Okay. Is Mr. Mangravetti up as a participant?
I promoted Mr. Mangravetti just in case he wanted to say a few words. I don't believe he has to, but it's really up to him.
I wanted to see if he had anything he wanted to add.
I can add, when 20 million people lost their jobs, I'm very glad to get a promotion at this time. But we'd like some flexibility to pick out plants that we would like. I think that's reasonable. We would get anything from your list. I assume that once we're on your list, we kind of have some discretion there. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely, sir. You can work with the mixture that Tom gave you. So that's fine.
And the one person I don't get promoted over is my boss, so I got to check with her. She's the gardener, the wife.
No, that's fine. We would like, the staff would like to have approval of those because certain species do well in certain environments, and we just want to make sure that you plant something that's appropriate to a coastal bank environment.
Yeah, sure. If you could just give us a list, that'd be fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll remind the public that now's a good time if you have any comments to chime in the chat function. I'm going to start with commissioner comments. Betsy?
No, Tom, my only concern with the plan that you put in was where the mitigation was, right next to the garden. So and I talked to Jen and she had talked to you, and so, thanks,
Yes.
looks good.
Okay, thank you.
And also I'm glad you're replacing honeysuckle with native plants.
Courtney?
Nice improvements. I'm good.
Okay. Kevin?
I agree. We've asked for a number of changes and it appears as though they've done basically all that we've asked. So I just have a question. Can we accept this late breaking plan as a final plan?
We're not going to make a habit of late breaking plans, but staff feels comfortable that you can.
Okay, thank you.
And in fairness, the new plan represents what the staff was looking for.
Correct.
Mark?
Tom worked on it all day.
Looks good to me. I have no comments.
Notice Tom colored in the plan too.
Wonderful color, isn't it?
Maury?
No comment.
Cedar?
My comment is they did well to adjust to the environment.
Russ?
No comment.
Steve?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay. Jen, do we have any chat questions, comments?
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So we requested public comment. We've received none.
So
So,
I'll make a motion. Make a motion,
sure.
close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. I'm gonna take the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Bunker. Thank you, Mr. Mangravetti.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thanks.
Good night. Tom's still
Okay,
there.
next up. Next up is another continued hearing, Delcor Realty Trust, care of Joanna DeLapa, 418 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace and extend the existing pier. Betsy,
Mr.
could I have the
Chairman,
quorum?
oh,
Yes, Jamie, the quorum is Kevin, Maury, Jamie, Russ, Steve, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Scott Goddard and Matt, Attorney Watsky, up as panelists for this hearing. I believe, is that your whole project team, Scott, for tonight?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I believe this hearing was continued because you wanted a few revisions on the plan, namely where I believe the water line, water and electric were going, as well as the proposed mooring fields. I'm going to share my end for this hearing. Let's see if I can do this. Screen 2. Share. Is everybody looking at the plan?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the whole plan or just the bottom part of it?
just the bottom, well, mostly the bottom only.
Okay, so I can do that if necessary. So I guess you can turn it over to Mr. Goddard.
Sure, well, thank you. You're right, as Jennifer said, we just submitted a few minor modifications to this plan as discussed the last time we were before you. We have updated the notation as to which piles were being replaced and which ones were being added. So that note has been added to the plan in the upper portion. In the lower half, we added the depth in the mooring field. And then we also added a note, or we eliminated in the detail that we weren't adding any water or electrical lines. So those were some detail items that were requested by members of the commission when we were wrapping up the discussion a month or so ago.
Thank you.
That's all we've submitted.
Jen, can you move that to the right?
Absolutely. Hey, let me try something, Russell.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
It go like 50% or 25. Anything else you want to see?
Just up, Jen.
Yep. Towards the dog profile?
Yes.
Let me see if I can do this. There we go. Is that better, Russ? Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. Jen, do you or Kevin have any more comments to add?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with commission comments. Kevin?
No comments.
Okay. Maury?
I just want to, no, I have no comments at this time.
Okay. Peter?
No comments at this time.
Russ?
No, really, thank you. It looks like they took care of everything we asked. It'd be nice to get this out of the way, so thank you.
We haven't hit our 1-year anniversary yet. Steve?
I agree with Russ completely. No comments further than that.
All right.
Jamie, I just had one question. What variances are they asking for?
I don't know if I could answer that.
Variance
Jen?
from, I believe they requested a variance, and Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, from the shellfish density. Am I correct,
correct.
Scott?
That is correct, yes.
And
Yeah,
that's
that was the only.
that was the only one?
I believe so, yes.
I just want to make sure that the board is clear on what's, required of variances, and might want to look at our town council variance request to keep us informed.
Okay. And everybody got copies of that, correct?
Yes, that was submitted a few weeks ago. Oh, what, the plan or
No, the variance request.
the variance request or council's guidance? Council's guidance.
Well, town council.
Yeah, council's guidance was emailed to you guys again today. And that's just the basic guidance that was written quite a few years ago by Attorney Harris. And the plan you received a few weeks ago.
Okay. Maury, did you have time to review that?
I did, and I just want to, in deliberation, I am sure we will have a lot to discuss.
Okay. All right, Jen, if you can stop screen sharing.
Yep. Oh, wait, 1 second. Stop share. Okay.
Okay. All right. Do we have any public comments in chat function?
No, we do not.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
What? In the
Jamie,
chat function?
I put in a chat comment.
I don't show it.
I don't see it, Betsy.
I'm there.
And you're muted.
I said to Jen, I wrote one to Jen. I have a comment after people on the quorum are done.
Okay. Does anybody else have any further comments from the board? Okay, Betsy?
So
That's a public comment?
this is a public comment, but it's about the variance. And I think it's really important for everybody to read the council's advice on the variance, because when you deliberate next week, you're going to have to answer, number one, what hardship was articulated, and number two, you're going to have to answer whether this project improves the environment or provides a public benefit. So I want you to think carefully about the variance. It's used in a rare and unusual circumstance, and those of you who have been on for a while know that we don't use the variance very often. And that's my only comment. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the legal advice. All right, so we have no public comment any further. If there's no more commission comment, I'm open to.
I have one, Mr. Chairman. I did read the email from Pat Harris, and I've seen it before, just so Commissioner Gladfelder knows that. I did read the email. Thank you.
All right. What's everybody thinking?
Make a motion to take it under advisement.
Second.
Steve Patton.
Second from O'Brien.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Close the hearing and take it under advisement. I'm going to call for the vote. Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Goddard.
Thank you very much. So the deliberation on that will take place a week from today, I understand? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Good night.
Okay, next up is Michael and Ann Feenan, and that has been continued. So, moving on. Next up is Karen Olcott, trustee, Small Cottage Realty Trust, 141 Fay Road, Woods Hole, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family house and to construct a new single-family house with a porch and deck, relocate the septic system components, reconfigure the driveway, and install mitigation plantings with associated clearing, excavating, utility installation, grading, and landscaping. And this is Mr. Tavares, I believe. Betsy, could you give me the
Yes,
quorum,
Mr.
please? I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
I just promoted Wayne Tavares and Miss All caught up to panelists.
Okay, before they start, we have the quorum.
It's everybody, Jamie.
Thank you. Mr. Tavares, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. How are you? How are you holding up in this strange world of ours?
We can hear you, Wayne, but we can't see you.
I know. I don't know
Oh,
why.
okay.
Is that by design?
No. No, start my video. There you go. Can you see me now?
Yes.
All right, great. Again, good afternoon. I want to share some new plans. We had a very good start, I think, with about 90% of our project approved. And we were sent back to, let's see if I can get these. Do you see that plan? Am I
Are you
sharing the
sharing the
plan?
screen?
No.
No? Share.
There you go.
There we are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We had most of this worked out. We had the resource areas done and so on and so forth. What we were missing was a tree for every 1,000 square feet. So what we have done is turn this entire area where I'm pointing to a shrub layer. We had a couple trees up here, 2 hollies. We moved everything down here. We kept 2 hollies and 2 cedars. So they conform to replicating this one tree that was removed for one tree. And then we were slightly over 2,000 square feet. So we added 3 trees. They're all located in this little area here. This little area was a result of running out of mitigation area on this north side. So we ended up with a small area here. We've changed all the tables to coincide with the actual quantities of plants that we're using. Again, it's 4 trees and a number of shrubs. They're all listed in here. The other thing we were missing was dry wells. So we have placed dry wells. We were also asked to do calculations. So we did a cross section of what a typical dry well is on this particular site. It's a little bit oversized, being in Woods Hole. We've got 1, 2, 3 dry wells, individual piping from every downspout. The architect gave us the location of the downspouts, so we were able to put them in the exact spot where they belong. So you have calculations, you have the dry well, and also there was a shed that the commission picked up that has located over here by the new driveway, can no longer remain, and that's been relocated from the B zone back into the B zone on this side where the old driveway was existing. Other than that, I think the tables are all adjusted to compensate for any area changes. And I think that's what we did. If we can, I'd like to get a vote tonight to close the hearing and to have it voted possibly next week also. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Wayne. You can stop screen sharing, please. Yeah. Okay. Jen?
I don't have any further comments other than what was on our original staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Kevin, you have anything to add?
Just to further what Jen said, no further comments aside from our previous report regarding the mitigation location.
Okay.
Do we go through the quorum on this one, Jamie?
She gave it to me. It's everybody?
Okay.
Yep. You promoted Karen Olcott. So Karen,
Correct.
do you have anything to add?
No, I think we're just trying to address the things that were brought up the last time. And I just took the advisement of what people said to put in hollies and cedars. And I think the others were just functional ones of the downspout runoffs, and the shed that's just going to be slightly moved. So hopefully we've addressed what's needed.
Okay. I'll remind the public that to use the chat function for any comments. I'm going to open it up to commission comments. Betsy?
I have no comments, thanks.
Okay. Courtney?
I have no comments.
Kevin?
I have no comments.
Mark?
I have no comments.
Maury?
No comment.
Peter?
No comments.
Russ
No comment.
and Steve?
Comments.
Okay. Jen, do we see anything on public chat?
There are no chat comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So if there's no more commission comments and there's no public comments, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Carlo Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay, the hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Tavares. Please advise your clients to not remove the stakes from the property before the hearing is
Okay.
closed.
When can we do that?
My fault.
When can we do
Ms.
that?
Alcott already did.
Yes, that was my mistake. I do apologize. I was having the lawn mowed and I did, it's my mistake. I do apologize.
How long would we keep them up?
Well, certainly you should keep them up till the hearing's closed. And honestly, you should keep them up until the job's complete. I mean, it's just gonna help you in the long run. You don't have to get it restaked. But certainly at least until the hearing's closed.
Okay.
Well, may I make a comment on that, Jamie?
Yes, ma'am.
How, if we do the order, how will anybody know where everything is if all those stakes are gone, including the construction, the workers, or whatever?
That's my point. I mean, it really should stay up till compliance. Or they're gonna have to pay to have the surveyors do it all over again for compliance.
I'll probably be the contractor of the site, and if I take them down, it would be incumbent upon me to put them back up again. So would that be allowed under those conditions?
If you're a registered surveyor,
Wait, they're already down.
Okay, I didn't realize they were all down. I thought they were just a
Yeah.
few down. Okay,
I'd be happy to have Steve Doyle put them back or I was just trying to figure out how to get the grass mowed during, that's all. I wasn't trying to make it more difficult.
thank you, Wayne.
all
You
right,
have a good
thanks.
night.
Have a good night. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Next are requests to extend the existing orders of conditions. First up is number 5, North Chop Nominee Trust, 5 North Chop Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. DEP number 25-4253, requesting a 1-year extension. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a 1-year extension and we recommend that you grant that extension.
So move, Carlo Hawks.
Second, Gladfelter.
Okay. I'm gonna ask for comments anyway. Betsy?
I have no comments.
Court?
Reason for the extension?
They're working through, we got notification they're working through Army Corps right now, Courtney.
Okay.
I believe that's why they asked for the extension, because we received all sorts of comments and emails from Army Corps today.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin?
No comments.
Mark?
No comments.
I'm sorry, Maury?
If there's a problem with Army Corps, will it stop them from doing their project?
Yes, because they wouldn't get a Corps permit.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So at that point, they'd have to come back for yet another extension, correct? Or refile?
Yes.
Okay. Peter,
No
any
comment.
comment? Okay, Russ,
No comments.
Steve.
No comments.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to grant the one-year extension. Take the vote. Betsy,
Aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Renee, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous, it passes. Next up is Edwin C. Gordon, 120 Racing Beach Avenue, Whisset, Falmouth, Mass. DEP 25-3437, requesting a one-year extension. Jen, you want to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just promoted Mike McGrath up, as well as Mr. Gordon. Hello, Mr. Gordon, we can see you now. For this request, I did ask Mike to join us to explain why yet another extension was being requested. I have been assured that all exterior work, including all the landscaping, the siding on the house, the windows, the roof, the patios, all the plantings and driveway will be finished this within this one-year time frame. I am recommending the extension. The only other option we would have is to not grant the extension. Work stops on the property, the applicant has to file, and I just don't think that's fair right now to the neighbors that in and around this property. So I've been assured by Mr. McGrath that he has spoken with Mr. Gordon, and Mr. Gordon's here to address the board, that the work can be completed, at least the exterior work can be completed, so the permit, we can not extend this permit life, and that the only work after this one-year extension would be interior. Am I correct on that, Mike and Mr. Gordon? Mike, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Mr. McGrath.
I filed a email that I asked that you would accept as written testimony, and we agreed that on the 15th of every month, Mr. Gordon will file an email that describes the progress on the site work, and that he wanted to get or he agreed to put the plants in the A zone by September. We nominated September 15th. So I believe that this has got a pretty complicated history. There's actually this order is only under the town bylaw, and there is also a superseding order, and the department's already extended the superseding order. So we need this order under the town bylaw only. And given the fact that he's had a few problems and with the conditions with the viruses, it's appropriate that he be granted the additional time.
So are you confident the year is adequate to complete the project?
I think Mr. Gordon should answer that.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I'm sorry to be back in front of you again for an extension. No one's more frustrated than I that we're not completed yet. What I discussed with Mike earlier, and I don't know whether it got broken down in conversation, was that we're basically at the point where we're ready to do all of the plantings and wrap up the site work. We just think that'll take the planting season to do that. We don't have our source our plants fully sourced yet, so I'm just trying to be conservative in case that takes us some time. As far as the completion of the entire project, the house, I don't know if that can occur. Basically, we're out of the ground with foundation and a number of other hardscape appurtenances, but we have a lot of steel and we have a lot of precast concrete. So I don't know the timeframes on that, but I'd like to think that we could get it done within a year. Was my understanding that we were only going to get to September 15th. So September 15th, no, but within a year, yes, that's the intention.
All right, before we go any further, first up, I am going to recuse myself from the voting, so I will be just acting as moderator. But I want to point out that to get a certificate of compliance, you need an building occupancy permit. So that is interior and exterior, for the record. Hey, Michael, do you have anything else to add to that?
I believe that given the year, he could probably get the, there's no question he get the plantings done, he can stabilize the site and get almost all the site work done. And then, yes, it's gonna take a while to build that house. But if he builds the exterior, it would seem that, and he's got the exterior done, then the work inside a house does not cause an impact on resource areas. So if he finishes the exterior, he should be able to proceed with doing the interior work after the expiration of the order.
Mr. Chairman, if I may jump in, your orders of conditions state that the staff will not sign off on occupancy until until a certificate of compliance is issued or a bond is posted for all outstanding work. And what we mean by all outstanding work, obviously work that impacts the buffer zones in our jurisdiction. So we wouldn't be seeking a bond for any interior work. It would just be whatever's not finished as far as landscaping, patios, driveways, things like that is what we usually do. So I don't believe a certificate of compliance, could be, I mean, we could possibly issue one, the board could issue that. But that's usually what happens is we won't sign off on occupancy until we certify basically through that certificate that all of the mitigation plantings and all earthwork is done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Jen, may I just confirm with you when you talk about exterior for the purposes of the extension conditions, that again, it's everything exterior of the house itself, not meaning the exterior of the house, meaning like.
No, I do mean the
roof.
exterior of the house. Because we scaffolding or construction debris everywhere when we don't have an open order. So I do mean like the siding of the house, the roofing. I do mean the exterior of the structure, sir.
Okay, again, provided it's within the jurisdiction, because I don't know if the whole house is.
Provided it is in jurisdiction, sir.
Okay.
Okay, any comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Okay.
How long has this project been going on?
In my mind, 12 years since we started it, but in earnest, we broke ground about 16 months ago, and it's not an excuse, but an explanation is that I've always wanted to build a house. I'm a real estate developer. I have experience in the trades, but I am sometimes only one man, and I wanted to do it right with the very exacting specifications, and I've overdone it and just run out of time. And now at this point, we are bringing in the professionals. So I feel like it's going to be moving much more quickly.
So I'm not exactly getting a warm feeling that everything is going to be done on the exterior of the house for a year.
Again, I mean, where I sit right now, I'm just trying to be as open and honest as possible. I don't know. I can make best efforts, but like I said, it depends on. I couldn't get my stone guy here for 6 months. There are 7 new houses on Racing Beach right now. It's like it's amazing lack of availability of these guys. And in that particular instance, the first phase of all the retaining walls we did at the property were with one vendor. We needed the same guy to come and replicate that wall, and I was at their behest. So, you know, based on my experience, I can't always get what I want when I want it. But like I said, at this point, it's not just me doing it. We're ready to frame the house and do all the exterior site work and plantings. So, you know, I feel from a practical standpoint, it doesn't serve anyone, not the town, not my abutters, not me, to have to wait and refile, because for the first time in 12 years, I'm actually ready to go do the plantings. And when they finish the veneer on the wall next week, we will start to do that final grading and planting in the A and B on the ocean side, and start the within the jurisdiction on the street side. So I'm very confident in terms of all the site work, landscaping. The house, I'm a little out of my element, to be honest. And I've lined things up as best I can, but I don't know. I don't know how long it takes.
Well, let me just make the comment that we don't want to see you here next year at this time and learn that all of the plantings have not been put in and the site is completely stabilized.
Well, I honestly, I don't know where Mike ended up on this, but I offered to keep Jen aware on a monthly basis, just so she knows. I fully expect all of that will definitely be done by the end of the summer. I do have a grasp on that, and with the exception of not being able to get a plant, which we have very generic plants here, we have everything lined up to do that.
I have no further questions, Jamie.
Thank you. Courtney?
First of all, Mr. Gordon, do you have a general contractor employed to build a house, or are you doing this yourself?
Well, I am acting as my own general contractor. So for the steel, we subcontract out. For the concrete, we subcontract out. For the framing, we subcontract out. For the fine carpentry, rough carpentry, etc., we would subcontract it out. So in terms of some of these guys act as generals in other, in other walks of life or in other projects, but in this particular case, I am acting as a general contractor.
Yeah, I like Betsy. I'm kind of uneasy with this because my experience is, I mean, do you live here in Falmouth, Mr. Gordon?
Not full-time normally, but I have been for the past 4 or 5 months to try to see this through.
I'm asking that question because my experience, and I was in the construction business for 30 years, and my experience with people who are their own contractors, for whatever reason, some of it's saving money, some of it's because they want to have hands-on experience and so on, is that in the long run, the project takes a lot longer to complete than when a general contractor who's local and brings in his team and does the job, gets it done. So, I can't remember what the plans are in that house, but on the face of it, to finish the work and have the shell up in a year and tight to the weather doesn't sound unrealistic. But I also know if you as an individual don't have the relationships with the subcontractors and they're busy, they may not jump when you want them to jump. And I'm sure you're experiencing some of that firsthand. And so I have real concerns that you're going to be able to finish this project within a year. The other part of it is that we typically require the whole project to be complete with a certificate of occupancy, as Jamie said. And that means the interior work has to be done too. And, you know, even though you've got the outside done and you've got the landscaping and all of that stuff, you're still got a major bit of construction and all the construction mess and debris and subcontractors in and out while the interior work is being done. And I'm troubled with the idea of a year's extension. I mean, I don't know what the alternative is. I mean, but I'm concerned about this, frankly.
Well, if I may suggest, I really was focused.
Mr. Gordon, this is no reflection on you. I mean, or your capabilities or handling a project. It's just I'm looking at my experience on it, and you know, there's a little nibbling feeling in my gut that bothers me about it.
Well, for all the reasons you describe is why I'm not sitting here saying I'm 100% confident that I can do it by this time next year. What I discussed with Mike initially was that really I wanted the opportunity to be shut down now and not do the plannings and all the site work that I am very confident about. I have my landscape contractor's ear. They're on the job now. I believe that's going to happen. No problem. And I said, just, you know, give me to the end of the summer to do that. And, you know, if I haven't made any other progress, then I guess I'd be filing for a new notice of intent. At that point, it won't really involve anything outside the footprint of the house itself. But if that's the way it needs to be, that's the way it needs to be. That's fine. But to stop me now and not be able to do, you know, all the site work, as I said, I don't think serves my neighbors or the town or myself very well at this point. So we can do a year and wait see, or we could do end of the summer.
I don't have an issue with extending it. I just want to know what the game plan is when you get to the other end of the thing, and where are we? And that's I'm more looking at that.
Well, can you tell me when this state of emergency is going to be lifted, because that is having some impact as well.
That's the other issue, yeah. But you know, your issues of delays didn't start with the coronavirus.
No, I agree. It's the you know, it's the goal line basically to get the. I may have made a mistake and focused more on the site work than the house. That's where I've been putting my efforts. I really wanted to get everything buttoned up around, and I know I wasn't going to get a certificate of compliance just by doing that, but I wanted to get out of the buffer and be able to concentrate on the building itself. And I see that you're putting, I guess, more weight on the house itself than I had realized. But I'm still focused and committed to, in the short term, the next couple of months, getting all the site work done and stabilized and planted.
Thank you. Moving on, Kevin?
No comments.
Mark?
No comments.
Maury?
Oh, you said that so, Maury. Anyway, I had a couple questions for the applicant. If I'm not mistaken, I do remember this as being one of the hearing officers back then. This project started in 2008, was the original notice of intent with an order of conditions. It went to land court in 2013. It has been 6 years have passed since this could have moved on. I am very concerned. I don't think I've ever seen a project that has had this many continuances and nothing happened. Usually a year and a lot goes on. This has been 6 years and nothing's gone on. I know a foundation was put in, and if the applicant could please tell me when the foundation was poured.
The footings, well, let's say the walls, I believe, were July, August, perhaps. And then there's a terrace landscape around that. And that's been happening in multiple pours. So I think end of July of last year, but I had to move off it for a little bit, and really been back the last 4 or 5 months. As I said, I've been doing all the site work, me alone, all the drainage, all the subsurface. So
Okay, that you gave me the date. I didn't have to have a whole explanation how you.
yeah, but I did want to mention too that 2013 was land court, but we also had a private suit from a neighbor that delayed us. We were not in a position to go forward until all the aspects of that. I'm sorry, the dates escape me, but I believe land court was wrapped up before that.
So I think the concerns of the board are that ours is environmental, and the stabilization of this site and the plantings that were required in the notice of intent in order for you to move forward. And in many cases, we've required that the plantings get done before the construction. And maybe with this extension, we could require that. I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels, but it seems like if it's taking this long to do the construction aspect, I'm very concerned that the plantings will be a long time from now. And to use the unfortunate situation we are all in, I'm in the landscape construction company business, and we are not stopped from working. We are one of the lucky, fortunate few.
Yep. Which is why I suggested getting in contact with Jen every month. I mean, I'm perfectly happy there'd be a condition that if we're not moving the site work along like we should be, so that it'd be done by September 15th, then this whole thing goes away. That's what I'm focused on. I know we're going to do that.
It doesn't go away, sir.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you wanted to place a condition that Jen is satisfied that we are working towards a September 15th completion to the site work, as a condition of extending beyond, having it extend beyond September 15th, I'm fine with that.
Maury, anything else?
No further questions.
Thank you. Peter?
No further questions.
Russ?
Courtney said it very well, and I agree with Maury. I got no comment.
Steve?
Further to add. Nothing to add.
Thank you. All right. Jen, where did the September 15th date come from?
Mike,
We volunteered to have a schedule for when the plants would be installed. So we volunteered that to give you an assurance that the exterior site work would be worked at. There is a contractor that's been hired by Mr. Gordon that will get the site work done.
Mr. Chairman, if I can jump in, if the board is leaning, would like to grant this year extension, I think the progress reports, monthly progress reports, should be required, as well as having those mitigation and buffer plantings, restoration plantings, whatever, installed by September 15th.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Gordon, just to point out the obvious, I'm not voting here, but the more you get done on the outside, the happier your neighbors and the town would be. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. Betsy?
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that those.
I'm sorry.
The motion?
I need a motion in a second. I'm sorry.
All right, so I'll make a motion.
Just please incorporate what I just said, Betsy. Monthly progress reports, mitigation by.
I'll make a motion to extend this this order for 1 year, but it will require monthly progress reports and all of the mitigation plannings to be in by September 15th.
Arlo Hawk, second.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
I have a question. Is the intent of this motion with a requirement that this be done by the 15th, the exterior?
That's the
does that
plantings,
mean
Courtney.
that if he does not meet that, he will have to apply for a new order of conditions?
Dan, Courtney, it's just to have all the site stabilized and all the plannings in by the 15th. And then we'll deal with what we have to deal with at that point. But this site has been left fallow for too long.
I understand, and I'm really troubled by that. So when it comes time for the vote, I'm voting no.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to grant the 1-year extension with the expectation that it would be monthly monitoring reports. And the expectation would be that the site stabilization would be completed by September 15th.
Correct.
Having said that, you are granting a 1-year extension.
Correct.
Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to call for the vote for this extension. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
No.
Matthews recused. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, no.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 yay, 2 nay. It does pass.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
folks.
Mr. McGrath.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gordon. Next up, Susan Ladd, 28 Rivers Edge Road, Falmouth, Mass, DEP number 25-4259, requesting a 1-year extension.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a 1-year extension and the staff recommends you grant that. There's just some landscaping that needs to be completed.
Arlo Hawks,
Okay.
aye.
I think Maury made a motion. I'll second the motion.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on this one?
No.
All right. We have a motion and a second to grant the 1-year extension. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay, it passes. 1-year extension is granted. All right. Next up are vote order conditions. First up, James McLaughlin, Town of Falmouth, Shumet Road, Catherine Lee Bates Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the roadway projects that the staff worked with CEI on to incorporate. There's some additional comments we had. I believe the plan reflected that, and I will make the appropriate conditions regarding the construction.
Okay. Anybody have anything special they want to see in that? All right, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to accept as discussed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Grant the order of conditions. Take the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. Excuse me. Next up is James McLaughlin, Town of Falmouth, Chester Street, Elm Road, Old Main Road, and Garnet Avenue, Falmouth, Mass.
Same comments, same suggestions.
Bird moves to accept as discussed.
Patton second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Anybody have any comments?
No, thank you.
Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Get out.
Carla Hawk, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Thank you. The order of conditions passes. Next up, Ellen Rulin and Sarah Buckwalter, 2 Cotuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the raise and construct of the new home, removing that garage area, regrading that slope, whatever you wanted, like landform they created to put the garage in. They did modify the mitigation plantings. They moved the cedar trees into a grouping like the board wanted, where that outdoor shower area was or is. So I think they addressed the board's concerns. So your special conditions are just going to be normal plant, make sure they are full and mature form your standard special conditions for your mitigation plantings.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything special on this one. I could be wrong though.
Okay. No, it's everyone. Anybody want to add anything?
No, thank you.
Move to accept as discussed.
Second, O'Brien.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney, Mr. Byrd,
Bird, aye.
thank you. Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. Next up, Robert J. and Natalie Colgan, 133 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, it's raise and construct new home. They did revise the plan to address the staff's concerns with using the existing septic system for the cottage as their stormwater area. So that was revised to the staff's satisfaction. I don't really have anything to add other than, again, the standard special conditions you'll see on a project like this.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I just wanted to add, I think in the minutes it reflected that I also had said this is new construction, so there's no future armoring.
Okay.
Bird move to accept as discussed.
Carla Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna go for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Unanimous. Next up, Terrence J. and Margaret N. Forster, 37 Beckles Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was the staircase down the bank. The applicant, it was nice to see. Thank you, Kevin Newton, to have the applicant put some plantings along the top of that bank and propose that single rail fence to protect them. So that was a nice improvement. And they're hinging the lower section to kind of reduce the structure in the velocity zone, but hinging, they can only do so much because of the weight. So it's really the only access they'll have. You've all been to the site, they can't access down that slope. So this is, access.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I do.
No.
Okay.
I'd like to make sure that they understand they should come back to conservation to the office when they find they can't build this the way they thought they were going to, which is putting poles in. And they're going to have to do, I believe,
Footings.
more work on the hill to get it on there with all the stone that's there.
Okay, we'll make some findings and some special conditions that when we check the building permit, that, they'll have to amend the permit if they want to, you're saying if they want to sink the footings in?
They're going to have to put footings, or I believe they're going to have to do something beyond simply
Okay.
digging poles into the side of the hill.
So if they change methodology.
Didn't they, wasn't it discussed that they were talking about using stainless steel and bolting to some of the boulders that are there?
Yes.
Yes, that's what they said.
The other thing is they could core them.
That might do it if they get a hand.
And honestly, that's probably a better
halfway
way.
up the hill and drill into that stonework to embed something.
I mean, that's a good footing there. I mean, that's the stonework.
Yeah, and that's usually pretty
What kind of machinery they have to build it, if they have to bring in something other than a simple post hole digger to do the work on the hill.
Yep. So to Mark's point, if they change methodology, then they'd have to come back for an amendment.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion.
Bird moves to accept as discussed.
Gladfelter second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Go for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Hey, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
All right, it is unanimous. Next up, Brian and Doris Cameron, 92 Indian Ridge Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Like a few before, it's the raise and construction of a new home. They're removing the invasives in the zone B and provided a planting plan to restore that area.
Okay, anything special you think needs to be in there?
No, just the regular special conditions, plant health, survival, like that.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add?
I just want to add that I've been going to some of these areas that have been restored, and 3 or 4 or 5 years later, there's not much going on. I just want to make sure we put in a time frame that this gets done.
Okay.
All right.
Bird moves to accept as discussed.
Carlo Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Stephen.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. Folks, that is all we have.
I make a motion to adjourn. Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter
Bird,
second.
second.
Patton, second.
All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Folks, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.